Hey guys, welcome to Whiskey and Literature. I'm your host, Captain Mike, and I just got back from Kentucky. Wanted to share with you a few bottles that I bought. Not going to deep dive the bottles today, just going to say, here's the bottles that I bought, here's why I bought them, here's how much I spent for them, and did I pay more or less than I did last time I was in Kentucky in July. I'm excited. I always think it's a fun time to go to Kentucky, the 2 times that I've been. So let's talk about why I go to Kentucky. Should you go to Kentucky? Maybe perhaps a bit what you could expect when you go to Kentucky. Talk about the distilleries that I hit and the bottles that I got. First of all, why do I go to Kentucky? I'm still relatively new to drinking whiskey. It's only been about 4 years or so, and I've only been hitting the whiskey for maybe the past year or so. I would say more than a year and a half ago, I was kind of just an ordinary drinker. I would have a few bottles at the house, and when those bottles were gone, I would get new ones. Then we just kind of started turning it on, and now it's kind of become a problem in the house. But I've been having a great time with it. And I think going to do distillery tours, and in Kentucky in particular, is great because we get to see some of the history of the bourbon. We get to see the distilleries that we enjoy their products from. We get to support them and see what makes them unique and different. One of the main reasons that I like to go to distilleries is for bottles like this. This is a Jack Daniel's Distillery series. Pretty much only get it at the distillery or close to it. I went to Jim Beam in July and I got their Distiller Share Batch 2. And this is a distillery only product. We went to Stranahan's in Colorado a couple of months ago. And this is they call it the Distillers Experimental Series. So this is a bottle you can only buy from Stranahan's. They're an American single malt company. So I enjoy going and seeing what products they have. Oftentimes these distillers shares, the experimental products are things that they're trying to see, can we release this down the line as a product in the future? Or they're just kind of having fun and doing different things and seeing what really hits it with the public. So those are some of the reasons that I go to distilleries. To learn about the brands that I enjoy, to see if they have anything that's new or distillery only, and really to have a good time. When I went in July, a couple of different friends thought they wanted to go, and for different family reasons and whatnot, they were unable to go with me. So I rolled by myself in that first time, and I had a great time. This time, Scott, he flew out from Colorado, and we spent 3.5 days there. And it was a really good time. It was a little different for me because Scott is not super into bourbon or super into whiskey. So I don't want to drag him around to the different stores. When you kind of go by yourself, you can go to the store, same store, 3 or 4 times to look at things and go to 15, 20 different stores. And if you're with someone else, you can't quite do that. So we really hit, to me, it was a lot of distilleries. And we didn't really have time to do anything else. In fact, we only went to one store that wasn't a distillery. I went to, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and half of Friday, we went to 9 distilleries. See, Scott didn't get there till late Tuesday, so he went to 6 of those distillery tours and tastings with me. And I think that's another good reason to go. You have a good time, take your spouse. I've done distillery tours with Mrs. Captain, and she's not really huge into whiskey, which is kind of cool too, because then if we're doing a tour and a tasting, then she usually slides those glasses over to me, and I get to have her tastings as well. But we've done tours and tastings in Utah, in Pittsburgh, in Michigan, in Tennessee, in Kentucky. We've done them in Reykjavik, Iceland, and it's almost always a great time. Should you go to distillery tours? First of all, have you done any? If you have, what's been your favorite? I know I have a couple favorites that I've been to now. And some of the things I really like when the grounds are really beautiful. I like when the tours are interactive and you're really engaged with the host. I like when I learn new things. I like when I get to see, the first couple times, like, how's whiskey made? Now I kind of understand roughly how whiskey's made. So when I go to the distilleries, it's like, what sets this distillery apart from other distilleries? What makes it special? Is it special? What's the history? Where did you come from? And you learn all these things when you go to these distilleries. And I think it's a really great educational time. So if you have a favorite whiskey, I think it's great to go and do the tour and have a good time in Kentucky. I haven't done Lexington. I haven't stayed in Lexington. I've stayed in Louisville both times. I do find Louisville, and I got some pushback from my last video because I was referring to Louisville maybe as kind of sketch, and I'm going to stand by that. I don't feel like it's quite, and I'm really contrasting it with Nashville. We did Nashville last year, and I feel like Nashville was very safe in the sense that I saw lots of police officers. There were a lot of people. All the honky-tonks and the places you want to go are in a very small area. So there's a lot of people there. And while there were some homeless people and there were some walking to and from our Airbnb, I felt like overall it was a fairly safe environment. I feel like in Louisville, it's a little more spread out. I never saw any police at all in Louisville, and all the time I've been walking around. And you do go through under some overpasses, and I was approached by quite a few homeless people, which is fine. I mean, I'm just a guy, so hey, no thanks. It is a very different vibe than Nashville. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Again, just be aware of that. If you're going for that type of experience, Nashville style or Las Vegas style, I don't think Louisville is it. But that's just me. Okay, so let's talk about kind of what I did this week, and we'll use that to go through the bottles and what I picked up and how much I spent for them and what I spent overall. And again, we're not going to deep dive the bottles, just a brief introduction to them, and we'll go through these at a later date. So I was going to get there on Tuesday. Scott was going to get there late Tuesday night. We're going to have all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, and then we had afternoon flights on Friday. So if you're going to go to Louisville, just be aware that most distilleries are closed on Monday and Tuesday. So factor that into your plan. And if you want to go do a bunch of tours, start booking those as far out as you can. In fact, we were booking 7-8 weeks out, and some of the tours that I wanted to do and Scott wanted to do, we were just unable. And also with only really 2.5 days of time, booking distillery tours is kind of like playing Tetris. You're trying to fit these puzzle pieces together, and you have to have drive time because it's not super compact. So when you're booking your trip to Louisville, be aware of that. Do you want to stay in Louisville? Do you want to stay in Lexington? You don't want to move around, I don't think. I've stayed at the Residence Inn in Louisville both times. If you book the tours that you don't really want to do, or maybe secondary, and then you go and try and book your favorites, you might not be able to fit them in to the time frame. So do plan your Louisville trips out as far in advance as you can once you have those dates set. You want to do Buffalo Trace? It's like 90 days out or however they open it. Buffalo Trace tours are free, and the book them are free, and so they fill up on the day that they open. I will say I went to Buffalo Trace on Tuesday morning and got myself a bottle. They had a 10-10 or 10-15 tour available, and so I did the Buffalo Trace tour. And I will tell you, it's probably one of my least favorite tours that I've done so far in Kentucky. I just feel like it wasn't very interactive, but the price is right because it's free. So if you didn't get a Buffalo Trace tour booked, go in the morning, tater up, get yourself a bottle, and see if they have a tour available. And they'll tell you while you're standing there in line, once you go through to get your wristband to go buy your bottle, they'll tell you if they have any tours available. Also, about Buffalo Trace, I know people love to hate on Buffalo Trace, and I get it. They've just become so huge. It's kind of, for some people, it's everything that's wrong with whiskey and bourbon these days. You can't really deny that the Buffalo Trace products, Eagle Rare, E.H. Taylor, Blanton's, Buffalo Trace, they're pretty good whiskeys, and especially if you can get them at MSRP. So if you're going to go to Louisville and you're going to be there in Lexington, you're just going to get up and go down to Buffalo Trace. I went to Buffalo Trace 4 days in a row this week, first thing to get in line for the bottle. I was there at 8:50. The first 3 days, you can type in Buffalo Trace Predictor, and it will tell you what the bottle's predicted for that day. It was wrong the first 2 days. I almost didn't go on Tuesday morning because I didn't feel super great, and it was predicting Weller. I'm like, you know what? I don't have anything else to do. So I went out on Monday. I woke up Monday. I didn't have any work. Mrs. Captain's out of town. So I just got on a plane and went to Louisville a day early. So I had a day longer there than Scott did. But I woke up Tuesday morning. I was like, you know what? I don't feel great, but I'm going to go ahead and go anyway. And I'm glad I did because it was predicting Weller And instead, let's just go through the mornings of Buffalo Trace and get the Buffalo Trace stuff out of the way. So day one was Eagle Rare. I mean, for 40 bucks, Eagle Rare, come on. I have a bottle and a half here. I just killed a bottle recently. For $40, no one's ever angry if you give them a pour of Eagle Rare. And also the holidays are coming up soon, so if you get a bottle of Eagle Rare, it's cheap enough you could just give it away for Christmas. So on Wednesday morning, Scott was here now, and it also again predicted Weller, and we decided to get up and go anyway. We drive all the way out there, and lo and behold, it was wrong again. So on Wednesday this week, it was Colonel E.H. Taylor. So what a solid pour this is, and for $45, you can't go wrong. And yes, I already have 3 of the small batch E.H. Taylors at my house. But again, Christmas is coming up, and maybe even, I've not been not drinking this because I want to save it because it's E.H. Taylor and you don't want to drink it. I've been just not drinking it because I have so many other bottles that I'm drinking. But maybe I'll drink it more liberally now that I have a 4th bottle. Might as well drink it, right? And speaking of that, I just realized I did not pour a pour before I started this video. You know what? Let's pull out the E.H. Taylor. Why not? Hope nothing falls. What's your favorite of the kind of semi-allocated Buffalo Trace products? You know, Weller, Eagle Rare, E.H. Taylor, and Blanton's. Do you have a favorite? I've had them all. I like them all. Weller is probably my least favorite. I do weeded stuff, but not super often. And I feel like it's just an okay weeded bourbon. Like it's a $22 weeded bourbon, and that's fine. I think the E.H. Taylor is a solid pour, especially at $45. Eagle Rare, 40 bucks, certainly. You can't go wrong. People do love to hate on this stuff, and I get it. And actually, I learned something on the Buffalo Trace tour. And this is kind of why I like to go on them as well. And I thought it was weird that the tour guide, she was very proud. She was proud of the fact that they chill filter all 18 of the products that they produce at the Buffalo Trace distillery. And I was thinking, I've just learned earlier this year what chill filtration means and why non-chill filtered whiskeys, uncut and filtered, etc., are kind of cool. Because when you chill filter a whiskey, they basically bring the temperature down and the fats in the whiskey congeal. And I'm really simplifying this, so if I'm kind of butchering what the process is, don't hate on me. Feel free to correct me in the comments below. But they chill the whiskey, the fats congeal, and they filter those fats out, which makes the whiskey perhaps smoother, more sippable, more easy to drink, would probably be the easiest way to describe it, which is why Buffalo Trace is so good, I think, for beginner drinkers. It's just an easy sip, but you lose some of that depth and complexity when you remove those fats from the whiskey. That's why I love a ribeye so much, because it's just that fatty cut and it adds that delicious yumminess. And again, texture to the whiskey is removed when you chill filter. I thought it was crazy that she was just so adamant how awesome it is that Buffalo Trace chill filters all the whiskey. So anyway, let's see, Thursday we also woke up again, drove to Buffalo Trace at 8:15. We, on the product availability page on the Buffalo Trace website, it said Weller. And we left because we had to get back to Louisville. We had Kentucky Peerless tour at 10:30. So we were going to be kind of tight had we stuck around till 9 o'clock, that we were going to do that if it was Blanton's, but it was Weller. So we just left and drove back to Louisville. So we drove basically over 2 hours for pretty much nothing, but just on the chance that the predictor was wrong again. But it was right on Thursday. So we did go back this morning, back to Buffalo Trace again, pretty early. And it was the longest line because the predictor was predicting Blanton's, and it was a Friday. So I think with those two things combined, we got there just before, right at 8 o'clock, and we were probably 100, 110 in the line. because it said Blanton's and it was Friday, and the predictor was correct. It was Blanton's, so I've got my 4th bottle of Blanton's now at the house. I'm still kind of new to everything, so I haven't done the whole Blanton's topper thing, so I'm tatering up and going through that. I'm not hunting for these barrels. I'm not going out and paying extra at the store for them anymore. I love to get them at the distillery and just get the letters that I need. And it's a solid pour at, let's see, E.H. Taylor was $45, Eagle Rare was $40. The Blanton's, I believe, was $63. That's what I put on my sheet here. I was a little angry this morning because I went to a register to check out, and she didn't tell me that she couldn't print receipts. And I was like, I really want a receipt. And she was like, I can't print them. I was like, well, you should have told me that before. I tried to maintain calmness, but I was just a little annoyed. But these were my 3 days. We spent four mornings at Buffalo Trace. I got the Eagle Rare. We both got an E.H. Taylor and a Blanton's. And this was Scott's first trip to Kentucky. Again, he's not really a whiskey guy, but he took home an E.H. Taylor and a Blanton's. Those are 2 solid pours and great whiskeys that most guys would really enjoy having. So I'm excited for him to get home and be able to open those up. So let's cut back now to Tuesday. So I wake up. Now we're done kind of with Buffalo Trace stuff. So I wake up. I don't have a plan for Tuesday because I wasn't planning on getting there till late Tuesday. I go do Buffalo Trace. I go do their tour. I do their tasting. It was nice. Again, most distilleries are closed on Tuesdays. So I just kind of Googled distilleries open today, and Whiskey Thief came up. I don't know much about Whiskey Thief, but I drove over to their distillery, and it was nice. It was a great time. And Whiskey Thief, if you haven't heard of them, they are a very small distillery. It's crazy going from Buffalo Trace to Whiskey Thief. It was like 2 just completely different scales of operations. To give you an idea, you go to Whiskey Thief, and the last couple hundred yards of the road is a poorly maintained dirt road, which was fine. And you go park, and they have 2 buildings, and that's it. And again, to give you an idea, the entire operation, that when you go to Whiskey Thief and you do the little tour and the tasting, it was fun because they basically had 3 young ladies, 3 young women running the entire show. And it was great because they were all cute and they were all fun and they all knew their stuff. They seemed very knowledgeable and they were excited to share what they were doing with us. And I had a great time at Whiskey Thief, and it was just so different, which is also another good reason to go do different tours in Kentucky, because all these operations are kind of different. So you had one young lady, she checked us in, and then I went over and was talking they have 5 barrels. Now this only works because Whiskey Thief is such a small operation. If they get any larger, if they scale up, they will not be able to do what they're doing now. I mean, everything is run by 3 girls. They had a girl over there. They have 5 barrels on their side with the bungs taken out, and they all have Whiskey Thief, the little pipes in all the barrels. If you bought a tasting, you would get a glass, and she would fill up your glass or pour some whiskey in your glass from the Whiskey Thief from each barrel as you went along tasting them. The last one was the rye, and while you're sipping on your whiskey, you could be doing the tour. So that's kind of what I did. I had a couple tastings, and then I had 3 left to do, and I started doing the tour. And when my glass was empty, I just walked off the tour, went back, got some more whiskey, came back into the tour. It was all just so close. That was super easy to do, and it was great to see their operation. And at the end, again, this is not going to work if they scale up at all, but if you want to buy a bottle of whiskey from Whiskey Thief, you actually get to thieve the whiskey yourself. In other words, you get the bottle and you use a little pipe, and I'll put my picture up right here, and you basically fill up the bottle by yourself. And let's see, I put it in the Kentucky Peerless bag. So this is my 375 milliliter bottle from Whiskey Thief. This is their 95.5 rye. I think this was $85, which is, I mean, per ounce, that's quite quite an expensive bottle. And let's see, information on this. Again, $85. It's 123.3 proof. I thieved it on October 24th, 2023. It's a 5-year-old rye. Again, 95 rye, 5% malted barley. And I did taste that during the tasting. I thought it was really great. And I'm excited to blind that with some High West or some Bullet Rye, some of these other high rye ryes, and put it up against them because I really did enjoy this one. So after Whiskey Thief, again, I was looking for what distilleries are open on a Tuesday, and I ended up going to Lux Row. Wow. Oh, that E.H. Taylor. That's good stuff. Okay. So then I went to Lux Row, and I'll be honest with you, as I'm driving to Lux Row, I made that reservation because they were available that day. I didn't go to Kentucky planning to go to Lux Row. In fact, I was thinking on the way to Lux Row, I don't know what they make. Like, I've heard of Lux Row, but I don't know what products Lux Row makes and sells. Like, honestly, I have enough bottles here. I'm, learning as I'm going along here, but I could not have identified to you in the moment any Lux Row products, which is funny because when I got there, I realized that my Blood Oath, I have the Blood Oath Pack 9, which yes, is not open because I just haven't had the opportunity to open it. But that Blood Oath is a Lux Row product. I did their tour and their tasting, which was very nice. And at the end of the tasting, I went and got a pour of their Lux Row 12-year double barrel. I almost bid on that, but I went to Kentucky. There were 4 bottles that I really wanted. I knew if I got those bottles, I didn't really want to also put out the money for the Lux Row 12-year because it was $189. And don't laugh at me. Please just don't laugh at me, because I wanted to go to Jim Beam and I just wanted to buy the Claremont and the Hardins Creek, Claremont, and Boston because I have the Frankfurt. I know, if you know anything about those two brands, those two whiskeys, you're just laughing because you knew, of course, before I knew that when I went there, I would not be able to find those whiskey. And you were 100% correct. I could not find on Wednesday when we went to Jim Beam. They, of course, did not have those products. And so we did, Scott and I went back to Lux Row on Wednesday, and I picked up Lux Row. I picked up the Lux Row 12-year double barrel. So it's not a double oak. They call it a double barrel. It's a small batch, right? 2 barrels worth of whiskey. So we got the 2 barrels are labeled on here. They were both aged since 2010, so they're 12 years old. And they're barrel strength. So they kind of call it a double single barrel, which is kind of silly, but let's just let you know is what it is. It's 2 single barrels that are batched together. So the reviews are pretty good on this whiskey, and I felt pretty okay about ponying up $189, and that is the most expensive bottle that I purchased on this trip. And I'm really excited to get that one open and get into it, and maybe even compare it to some of the other 12-year-olds that I have. But so that I bought on Wednesday, though I went to Lux Row on Tuesday. So then we get up on Wednesday, go to Buffalo Trace, and then we went to Woodford Reserve. We didn't do the tour, we just did their Spectacle of the Senses tasting. And one thing I enjoyed on this trip is a lot of the tastings they paired with other foods. Parmesan, butterscotch chips, a lot of chocolate was involved, and things like that. I thought it was really nice. On the way out, I was buying, I think, a glass, a Glencairn, and I happened to notice that they had a 4-grain whiskey. So again, going to distilleries, one of the things that I asked for, do you have any product that you can only purchase at the distillery? And Woodford Reserve didn't have any of their Master's Collection or that stuff like that at the distillery. But what they did have is this 375 milliliter of a toasted oak 4-grain whiskey. Now, what this says, I was trying to find some information about it online. There really is none. But what this says, this is a blend of our bourbon, rye, wheat, and malt whiskeys, finished in toasted oak barrels. So basically, this is a blend, some unknown percentage of blend of their 4 core whiskeys. So I'm pretty excited to get this bottle open. It's kind of hidden behind my other bottles, but pretty excited to get this one open and get into it. And I paid $59.99 for that bottle. So after Woodford Reserve, we drove all the way to Jim Beam for lunch. I wanted to see if they had the Hardin's Creek, Claremont, please don't laugh, the Claremont and the Boston. And of course they did not have those there. But we had lunch at the kitchen table, which I thought was really good. We were a little bit rushed because we had to get up to Heaven Hill for the Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond tour and tasting. But while we were at Jim Beam, we kind of looked around. I was hoping they had a different distiller share, a different batch. They didn't. And they didn't have really anything that I wanted except for the Baker's 13. This is one of those bottles that I've been looking for on the shelf here locally. I didn't really go to Jim Beam or to Kentucky to look for this bottle specifically. It wasn't on my hit list, if you will, but pretty excited to have it. I paid $145 for this bottle, and I'm really excited. When Freddie No came to Tampa a couple of months ago, we went and he was talking about Claremont Steep, but this is one of the bottles that he brought, and we got a nice little tasting of it. So I'm pretty excited to get this open, perhaps even blind this with the Lux Row, maybe an Elijah Craig. We'll see. This is a lower proof, only 107, so maybe it might not stand up against the Lux Row and the Elijah Craig. And then we drove to Heaven Hill. We did their Bottle and Bond tour and tasting. I thought it was really nice. A lot of walking. It was a really long tour, and the tasting was interesting. We did it as we were walking around the distillery or the rick houses, so that was a little bit interesting. We were just talking about the whiskeys as we were walking around. I'm a big fan of Bottled and Bond whiskey, so that was kind of nice. And I didn't buy any bottles there. I was looking for one of the bottles on my hit list was the Elijah Craig C batch, the 923, and I couldn't find it. It wasn't at the Heaven Hill distillery. And we went to the Evan Williams Experience in Louisville the next day, and I was hoping they would have it there, and of course they did not. I think I just got really lucky when I went in July. I just walked into the Evan Williams distillery, or the Experience in Louisville, and they had the B batch, the B523. So I thought it would be so easy to just walk in and get the C923, but no. The next morning we got up, did Buffalo Trace again, and then actually we left because it was Weller. We rolled right back to Louisville, and we did Kentucky Peerless, and I really enjoy Kentucky Peerless. I think their tour is really nice. Their products are all really nice, and it's a great time. Both times we did the tours, it was great. The guy this time was kind of hard to hear. I don't know if it was just more things were happening, but a little harder to hear, but the tour itself is nice. They do things a little bit different than a lot of other distilleries in the area, so that's great to see. And I think all their products that I've had so far are pretty good. When I went there in July, one of my hit list bottles was the Double Oak, and they didn't have the Double Oak. And I was pretty sad until I tried, this is a bottle I bought in July, the Absinthe Finished Rye. This is, I knew that Mrs. Captain would love this whiskey, so I ponied up 134 big ones for that bottle. But one of my fourth bottle I was really looking for this time was the Double Oak at Peerless. And sure enough, they had it in stock. They have both the Double Oak Bourbon and the Double Oak Rye. And I'm gonna digress a little bit here on the Double Oak and the Peerless and distillery pricing. In my 2 trips to Kentucky, I purchased 18 different bottles now, and all but one I purchased at a distillery. They wanted $134 for the double oak bourbon. They wanted $149 for the double oak rye. When I was talking to the tour guide, he said the double oak bourbon is in my area. It is in Tampa occasionally. So I brought up Total Wine & More while we were on the tour. And sure enough, it was on the list of bourbons that they sell here at my local Total Wine for $86. $86 as opposed to $134, I think, at the distillery. And I'm like, what is going on with that? Now, the double oak rye is not available in my area, and it won't be for a while. And so I went ahead and I ponied up 149 big ones for the Kentucky Peerless Distilling Company double oak rye. It was that good at the distillery. We had a little taste of it at the tasting, and I really enjoyed it. I like a rye. I'm a big fan of double oak whiskeys, and this is an exceptional, I think, double oak rye. I am just going to rant a little bit here because I am super sad because we left the distillery and we went to Old Forester, did their tour and tasting, and then on the way back to the hotel, because we did Angel's Envy after, and Old Forester, our hotel is between Angel's Envy and Old Forester. So we stopped at the hotel for a little bit, dropped our bottles off. But we stopped at Justin's House of Bourbon, and guess what they had on the shelf? Kentucky Peerless Distilling Company double oak rye. And how much do you think they wanted for that double oak rye at Justin's House of Bourbon? Here's a picture. $119. So $30 less than what I paid for it like 2 hours earlier at the distillery. So I was a little sad. Like, I'm not sad I paid $149 for it, but heck, I would rather have paid $119 for it. And I don't know why that is. Do you know, like, why is that? I eavesdropped a little bit on a conversation later that night in Louisville at Taste. There was a couple, and they were talking to the bartender. They were talking about Buffalo Trace, and they were mentioning that the distilleries cannot sell directly to the consumers. So the distilleries have to sell to a distributor who sells them back to the distillery or to the store that's in the distillery. Because maybe the store is not actually part of the distillery. I don't know if that's considered the same or separate. Don't know. But it's crazy to me, and I'm sure it's just the alcohol laws are such that they don't allow that to happen. And I've not verified that. I had intended to go to the website and look at TTB maybe, or the Kentucky Alcohol and Bourbon Bureau or whatever they have there, and see what their laws are and see if that is the actual case, that the distilleries cannot sell to you directly. So it has to go through a distributor back to the distillery, and then you buy it. So perhaps the distillery is not actually the best place to buy whiskey. But I buy almost all my whiskey in Kentucky at distilleries. I mean, it was just happenstance that I bought this, and then 2 hours later I see it at Justin's for less. You don't have time to go to all the stores, especially if you're with your wife or your friends who don't really want to do all that. So, I don't know, what do you think? Like, did you realize that? Do you not buy bottles at distilleries? When you go to Kentucky, you just go to the stores? Anyway, so those are the bottles that I had. I feel pretty good about it. I tatered up for the 3 Buffalo Trace products. I got the Whiskey Thief, I got the Woodford, Lux Row, the Peerless, and the Bakers. I think these are all pretty solid bottles. I'm really excited about these ones. I'm happy to have these to just add space on my shelves, I guess. And one last thing about the trip to Louisville. I think another reason to go to Louisville is there are whiskeys there that you won't taste anywhere else. They're just not available outside Kentucky. So there are some bars that I've enjoyed going to. I've gone to Merle several times. I've gone to Frank's Whiskey Place, which is right by the hotel. If I have a drink or two too many, I'm really close to the hotel and I can make it back to the hotel no problem. I like to go down to Nulu. I've been to Evergreen a few times, but I've never had any pours or bought any bottles at Evergreen. And kind of before Evergreen is a place called Taste. That's kind of more my style. It's kind of smaller. Steven's the bartender and Sarah, and they're both great. And I've enjoyed talking to them and sitting there at the bar and just having a nice pour. So that's, again, one of the great things about going to Louisville is you don't go to Louisville and have a Jack and Coke or drink a Woodford Reserve bourbon, because you've had a ton of Woodford Reserve bourbons and other of these whiskeys that you can have here locally, wherever you're at. When you go to these kinds of places, get things you can't get anywhere else. And I had quite a few pours there of things that I've either wanted to try or things that I just saw on the shelf, or I've even just asked the bartender, hey, I want a rye, a not expensive rye. Just give me a rye and see what they bring. And that was very nice. Anyway, guys, so if I add all that up, when I went to Kentucky in July, I bought 11 bottles, $993. This here is a total of $776.98. And that divided by 8 means I spent $97.12 average price per bottle on this trip. When I came in July, I bought 11 and I spent an average of $90.27. So I actually spent less per bottle in July, but I spent less total. And I bought 3 bottles less this trip. But I had a great time. I'd encourage you guys, if not going to Kentucky, just look around your local area. I'm sure there's a distillery in every state of the union. And whether it's a big one or a small one, I think you can go there, support your local distilleries, see what they have to offer, and maybe you can find yourself a new local whiskey, which is, I think, pretty awesome. All right, guys, this is the end of my trip and bottle haul report. I'll be doing a review of these whiskeys here, these Buffalo Trace ones here. I'm probably not going to do a deep dive into those ones, but these ones here, I'll have a full review coming up in the next little while when I can get around to it. And you know what to do. If you enjoyed the video, like it, subscribe to see more of my content. I do both whiskey and book reviews. Again, I'm reading 52 books in 52 weeks in 2023, and I'm trying to burn through those reviews, and you can see those links in my channel. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, if you're here for the whiskey, then you probably don't want to watch my review on Jane Eyre. But anyway, guys, I hope you are reading something good and drinking something great. Turn the pages, my friends, and stay thirsty. Cheers.